to some extent spiritually involved. But I think he gets a little edgy and irritable at times with a lot of the stupidity that goes on around him on earth, you know. And he appreciates people's kindliness and thoughts and affection and all that. But he's more interested in things far removed from his old films. I don't know, but I expect he said plenty himself on that.
Yes.
But as long as they give pleasure, he's happy for the people concerned, but he doesn't see them in the same light, obviously. How could one? You see, we are, to some extent, obviously far removed from the old material thought and way of life and experience, and we adjust ourselves, a gradual change, in some cases very gradual. Indeed, there are some people who don't change very much for quite a considerable period of your earthly time, but he comes back. Sometimes he's been on your Sunday sessions when you've had your movies, as you call them, and he appreciates, of course, but I think he's more concerned with the spiritual aspect of what might be achieved or done, and indeed what has already been done. I think he'd like to see that studio place of yours use the spiritual work quite apart from showing his old movies. Perhaps you could do something about that. Rosie was under the impression that you were going to use that as spiritual activity.
Yes, we intend
I think you should try and do something about that, because it was something that she fully expected and would have appreciated.
One thing...
You know, this medium, bless his heart, he's a vacillating soul. I suppose most mediums are. I suppose if they were not the type of people that we can mould and use, be like plastic in a sense, they wouldn't be mediums. Isn't it good having a strong-willed personality as a medium, because quite often they're immovable. You know, you have to have sensitized people, and I think that he could do, even now at his time of life, more than he's doing. I don't mean in these constant sittings of groups and things, but certainly a more educational and spiritual aspect, something which people may, I'm sure, here and there are searching for, who become more interested in the deeper issues. You know, most people who become convinced of survival by the evidence that they've received want to go a little further. This is a marvellous opportunity where people come through and discuss and answer questions and so on. You know, I think you should do something with that studio in that regard. You know.
So much of it falls on his shoulders, though, you see.
Well, I mean, if he'd only did it once every 3 or 4 weeks, given selected people who were deeply interested and involved in this subject and want to go a little further away from the ordinary, I think it would be an excellent idea. I think something should be worked out on that, but anyway, I must leave it to you.
We have all those tapes of Rose that could be played.
Yes, well, they should form a library, and I think that something should be done about putting them out more, but I believe they're going out pretty well.
Yes, well, you'll have to turn the influence on Jim Ellis. He's the one for that.
Oh, now he's a character, if ever there was one, named James Ellis.
Yes.
Very sincere young man. Well, I suppose, what is he, middle-aged, 50 or something like that?
It's a shame, actually.
I think he's a very sincere person, and I think he's very anxious to do things. You should take more advantage of his interest, you know.
Yes, I've often thought this.
You're a good crowd, and I think together you could form the nucleus of something very good and very important. And this circle certainly has tremendous possibilities, and I think from it, I don't suggest you form a society. I'm not all that much myself in favour of societies as such. They usually get bogged down and people fall out and heaven knows what else. It's not for me to say perhaps, but I think that you should make more use of the medium's powers to spread this realization on a higher level. The opportunity is there, and I think you could build up in this group onto a very much higher vibration even than you have at the moment. I'm not blaming you, I'm not blaming anyone, but I think there's the possibility of something really tremendous here. You know, most of these societies, I mean, they have their clairvoyance and they have their psychometrical readings and their sittings and all that, and occasionally perhaps here and there a lecture, good, bad and indifferent of course. But I don't know if it's ever struck you how marvellous it would be with a channel of this nature, which was open to many souls on this side who could come and give interesting subject matter and discussion and the answering of questions from members of an audience and so on. I think this is something that you've neglected very much, over the years. I don't blame the medium for that. It's been bogged down by the routine sittings where it's been necessary to help people in more, say, material sense, but to give them the conviction that they need a very important work. But I think now should be something else, something of a slightly different aspect, certainly on a higher level of communication. It could be worked, it could be done, it could be built up. This circle could build on that, I think this is what so many of them here would like.
Yes,
anyway, we shall see. The human element will always remain. That's only to be expected, and it's only right that it should. After all, your loved ones, your son, for instance, Marilyn, and others, and Mrs. Bookbinder, husband,
Yes.
and Mr. Eric, his wife, and so on. This human element, of course, is very right that it should be considered, from time to time, obviously. But I just feel that the remaining years of the medium's life, while the power with his mediumship is there, should to some extent be used for informative and uplifting spiritual subject matter which would be of general interest, which could be distributed by tapes and so on. I think we should seriously do something about this. Perhaps you can work something out eventually. Anyway,
Yes, we'd like
anyway,
very
those
keen.
who don't like it, because the old stables, as they were once, would accommodate
40?
yes, I suppose. I don't know how many.
Yes, about 40 people.
Well, there must be more, thousands possibly, for all we know, people who really would like to join something of a regular, more or less nature where they can get information and
just with
spiritual guidance.
your medium's name, people would flock here like floodwater.
Yes, and of course, then again, you probably wouldn't have enough room.
No, and then you'd also get people that you don't, all due respect to them, didn't particularly want.
Yes, you've got to be careful because it only takes one person sometimes to upset.
Well, of
say,
course, this is
apple
the
cart.
thing.
You see, the attitude of mind, we understand every aspect, of course we do. I've been working in the medium for years. The whole point is that it's human and natural, that you have all manner of kind of people with different outlooks, different attitudes, different aspects, different reasons and purposes for coming, some highly critical, analytical, some full of doubt and fear, some who are over-anxious and in consequence sometimes defeat their own ends. But there are many aspects of the subject. But I think that it is important to be selective to a certain extent, particularly if we're to build up on the spiritual level of consciousness and build on a vibration whereby we can receive something, or you rather can receive something very worthwhile, away from Tom, Dick, Harry, Charlie, and Bert, and the rest, as much as one may love them. Obviously, most of them have been here a very short time, and they haven't necessarily progressed to that extent. There are odd ones here and there who can give you very good information and who can possibly be very uplifting. There's no reason why they shouldn't be. But of course one has to bear in mind that the more highly evolved cells, the more developed cells, do find it more difficult to enter into the earth vibration and make a definite contact. And if something would have to be built up on that line, it would take a little time. But I think that you should think seriously about an open meeting of a sort, open to a point, that is, to people who are deeply interested in the deeper issues of this subject, where they can come and have opportunity to put questions, and the answering of which would be of general interest to others that could be sent out that were not present or not able to be present. I think there's tremendous possibility. Here you have this beautiful house with great possibilities. I know it presents problems, but they're not insolvable problems. Problems that will ease themselves and sort themselves out given time. But I think that you should take full advantage of the opportunities that will obviously present themselves, and the medium, by cutting down considerably, will be strengthened mentally, physically, psychically, and eventually we hope, spiritually. I'm not saying he's not particularly spiritual, but then again one might say, what is being spiritual? But the point is this: I think here you have tremendous possibilities. I hope you'll take them in both hands, meet with yourself, and build up. You've got a good rock of truth here. You want to build on it.
Yes, but Doctor, also one thing you left
I must go, my boy. What do you want to know?
As material. You see, the medium cuts down on his work. Well, as things are going in this world at the moment, one's got to live.
Well, I don't think he should.
I know this shouldn't come into it, but
he
it has to.
has
in
never
these days.
wanted, and he will not want, and there'll always be sufficient and a little bit more. Leave it to us. The times we've said that, over the years, leave it to us. And of course, in the long run, you've had to anyway, but we've never let any of you down. There may have been times when it's been a bit of a struggle, or perhaps you felt a little unsure, uncertain, but looking back, I think particularly the medium can say with absolute honesty, you have always managed. You have never gone without. It's always been sufficient, and often a little more than sufficiency. You do that which you have to do, and we shall see that all shall go according to plan. I shall come from time to time, but I certainly will come here, but I don't make a habit of coming to the ordinary groups because, quite frankly, they're not my cup of tea. But this group, yes. Yes.
Thank you very much.
If you do organise something else,
All right.
I'll certainly put my weight in. I'll certainly help row the boat to success.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. God bless you.
God bless you, Dr. Marshall.
It's good today.
Yeah, she was very clear, wasn't she?
Very encouraging.
All the old standbys are coming back, Leslie.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Nice.
It's quite a different atmosphere, isn't it? That's all.
Yes.
Your poor little pussy, Vi.
Yes, thank you.
It must be very sad when you've had a pussy or a doggy and it's been so part of your life, ain't it?
I'm very, very attached to her. I give up my holidays now so that I can
Well,
look after her.
I suppose you realise it can't be long, don't
Oh, I
you?
know that, Mickey, and I'm grateful for having had her so long.
I think it's rather stupid how to put bell, I don't say you do, bells round the necks. So
Yes.
everywhere they go the damn bell rings.
Yes. I only put one on once
Yeah.
on her neck when she caught a bird, but she got so hysterical with it.
Yeah, well that's what I'm
Lifting up
talking
in the
about,
air.
because your husband's telling me.
Yes, I
Because
did that one.
there was some argument about this bleeding bell one night.
Oh, dear me.
That's brought us down.
It wasn't with this cat, it was with the other cat.
Yeah, your husband's on about it. This is about this bell. The cat wouldn't have it, and
No, that's
it
right.
wasn't fair to the cat anyway.
That's quite true. No, I don't use it at all now.
Oh well. By the way, Auntie Olive, give my love to Uncle when you get home,
Oh, Mickey, I will.
and tell him I send all my love.
Thank you so much.
And to Jimmy. Have to go now.
Try and
Bye
chase
bye.
up Elsie.
And keep your chins up, double ones as well.
Okay, try and chase up Elsie.
Yeah,
Find out
chase
something
Elsie
about
for
her.
Oh, she's gone to see her boyfriend.
Oh,
What boyfriend's that?
Well, that's the one in Canada, isn't
seeing you very soon.
it? I wonder if she
God
had.
bless you.
Or Mick is joking.